Bukhi Jishian Metok Tram Riraling Chian Yimde Padi Sangye Shindu Amite Gawargi Rohun Namda Shinla Triparsho Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami Shiranga Soghi Choknam La Janchu Bardu Dakni Yapsuchi Daki Shinyen Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Benchir Sange Druparsho Shidang Soghi Choknam La Janchu Bardu Dakmi Gapsuchi Daki Shinyen Gipe Sanam Ki Drola Benchir Sange Druparsho Chudang Soghi Choknam La Janchu Bardu Dakni Gapsuchi Daki Chinyen Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Benchir Sange Druparsho. Good. Here we go. We left it at the marks of a Buddha, right? The exchange. And so basically this was saying, hey, Buddhas look like this. And if you see someone looking like this, is that a Buddha? Right? And there was a yes-no answer, right? Which you should get used to, because from now on you're going to get yes-no answers for everything. And if you understand what they're talking about fundamentally, every yes-no answer you'll be able to understand or place your mind on it to stretch the edge of your bubble. So when they say yes, it is a Buddha, what do they mean? And when they say no, there isn't a Buddha, what do they mean? Someone. Yes and no. If someone looks like a Buddha, are they a Buddha? Yes, no. What do they mean? The lady with the eye. Yeah, good.
Well, we just talked with Supriya, and it sounds like, I guess I don't know the answer to the second part of the question, but I think that it's whoever is looking at the person, it's whatever they're projecting onto that person that would make them think that maybe this is Buddha, and that is also the same reason that maybe it's not.
It is deceptively, it's not ultimately. That's really the answer, right? Yes, a pen is a pen. It's not a pen. It is a pen, deceptively. Meaning, for those that have the projection of pen, not by choice, forced by your past deeds. You're forced to see that thing as that thing. In that term, it is a thing. Yeah? But don't hold on to it as if it's only that thing, never not that thing, always has been that thing and will never not be that thing. Because that's not true. That doesn't exist. That's the gotcha. Remember that? A thing that could be a thing without your mind projecting that thing. And so it is a Buddha for those that perceive the Buddha because they understand, they experience it to have those marks or signs or forms or shape or whatever. But it's not a Buddha if you think it's a Buddha out there separate to you. If you get that, that's all the rest of the sutra is. And then you're just going to place your mind there with this concept and place your mind there with that concept. And gradually you'll really get the essence of this sutra. And that if you make the 10 classes, and I beg you try because it's incredible. If you make the 10 classes, I'll we'll read the sutra on the last class, and I'll invite you to have two minds while you're reading it. The mind that understands what we've just been covering, it is and it isn't, that's why it is, because it's not. Well, yeah. The four bodies, or the born from an egg, remember all these things we've covered, and all the things we'll cover. I'll invite you to read it with the understanding we got here, and you'll be going, what? I know what that means. What? I know what that means. And then I ask you to imagine having the mind that would read this thing without that knowledge, and have that in the background going, I would never have understood that those words can transform the way I experience the world, and I should act in the world, and I should think about the world. Yeah? And that is the gift of this thing. So, this is where we left off, right? So, Buddhi, what do you think? Just because I got this, is this what I am? Right? That's where we left it. And I thought you should listen to the not so good translation, but the only thing that I found on YouTube that sings it. I have, where's my bag? Is it in there? Sorry. No, it's just ask someone. Where is it? Sorry. That's pretty cool. You're seated on top of the Diamond Cutter Sutra. I just need the red book, that's all. Yeah, the piano and the golf clubs. Yep. And Stephen, I think, did you get, this is for you. Thank you. So this is the actual translated Diamond Cutter Sutra. And this is how Tibetan books are usually held. They're in this thing called pechas. And so you would read it sort of like a laptop. And so you'd place that thing there, and that's the Diamond Cutter. So I'm placing it your way, right? You can see it over there. There's the Tibetan and the English. The Tibetan and the English. The Tibetan and the English. So I'm hoping that we get to read this holy text on the last class, passing it around for those of you who want to read English. And they say that's a massive blessing. But the way you'll get this, this translation is exquisite. This translation is not what you see in the words, but it's not what you'll hear when I play the sutra that Zoe really likes, right? I will play the sutra. Yeah. So I'm going to play the sutra from last class, just a few verses from last class, so you can get your minds on where we're at. Is that good? Yeah. Here we go.
How a bodhisattva practices charity.
Talked about giving, charity.
Buddha said to Subhuti, when a bodhisattva practices charity, his or her mind should not abide anywhere. A bodhisattva should practice virtue without abiding in appearances.
Don't get lost in what it's up here.
Unmoved by sight, sound, smells, taste, touch, or things. A bodhisattva should offer help without abiding in false notions of form. Why? If a bodhisattva practices generosity without abiding in form, his merit will be inconceivable and immeasurable.
That part's important.
Buddhi, what do you think? The space in the easterly direction is immeasurable, is it not? You are right, world-honored one, it is not measurable. So Buddhi, can space in the western, southern, and northern quarters above and below be measured? No, world-honored one. When a bodhisattva practices generosity without a mind abiding in form, then the merit resulting from that virtuous act is as great and immeasurable as space. Subhuti, the bodhisattva, should thus abide as taught. Physical characteristics of Tathagata. Subhuti, what do you think? Can the Tathagata be recognized by how its body looks? No, Buddha, the Tathagata cannot be recognized by how he looks. Why? Because when the Tathagata speaks of the form of his body, it is not real form. The Buddha said to Subhuti, everything with form is unreal. If all forms are seen as unreal, the Tathagata will be perceived. The future of these teachings. The Venerable Subhuti then asked Buddha, world-honored one, in times to come will there be sentient beings who are able upon hearing these words and sentences to believe them? The Buddha said,
Sorry. The answer to that is this class, yeah? Sorry. You're like, shut up, Hector, let me listen to the recording. No. The main point I want to give, so we talked about, the main point I would like to make is that the essence so far, the Buddha said, dude, the merit, the goodness you will generate that will turn you into a Buddha, yeah? That will let you reach your goal, is immeasurable as space if you give or do virtue without abiding in form, thinking of emptiness, understanding emptiness, realizing that the world appears this way, but it's a lie. And if you understand how the world appears, if you not abide in forms that are deceptive, yeah, then when you do anything like the 6 perfections, which we covered, which begin with giving, which is what generosity refers to here, so far so good, then when you do that act of giving, taking care of another, transmitting something, wishing something upon another, when you do that act of giving, understanding how reality really is, a projection on emptiness, the result of that in you is immeasurable. It's more than all the lands covered in gold, way more. And equally, if you see this body, this thing that has all the looks of a Buddha, if you see how it is not the form, if you don't abide in the perception that appears to you, only then will you perceive me. Only then will your mind have Buddha. When you realize this is not Buddha, that's why it's Buddha. Fuck. Sorry, intercourse. See, your mind almost grasps it, right? And then it's like, no, don't worry, we'll return to it every bloody class over and over, because he does this about giving, he does this about perceiving the universe, the end of time, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah? And every time you're getting another edge of your expansion of what is reality, because you're seeing it from this point of view, from that point of view. And if you can hold this for a millisecond, it is an unstoppable course for you to perceive that. Unstoppable. It's like a virus that will undo the mistake. Unstoppable in your mind. Because I was trying to think, how do I tell you this from 23 years of bashing my head against it? And the moments of experience you have in meditation, and then in the shower, and then pooping, and all the other things. You're like, oh, poop is not poop, that's why it's poop. And it's like, why the hell would giving, or anything else, right? Any virtuous activity, 6 perfections. Why would anything be way so infinitely powerful if you're conceiving of ultimate reality, of emptiness, if you're holding your mind on emptiness, wisdom, the diamond. If you're holding your mind on that, why would doing an activity with that in mind be so infinitely more precious and more virtuous and bigger than just giving? Because if someone wants bread and I give them bread, didn't I just give them bread? And they ate the bread and I feel good, and if you like bread and if you're not allergic, then it's a good thing. So why would it be different to just giving her bread? And you got to get there, and this sutra will get us there. If you understand that there's a difference between giving bread and giving bread, understanding the emptiness of the situation, there is no bread to give that would by itself give her sustenance. Zero. That thing don't exist. How do I know? Some people eat bread and vomit. Bread doesn't have that power, but it does for her because you're not allergic. Right? Yeah. So it appears as having sustenance, and it has sustenance in that case. It really does for her and for me. It's just a projection upon dots of data. And if I understand that, somehow the results of that internally, the thing that it will do to me is as infinite as space, he said. Why the hell? That's important. So holding your mind on the understanding of emptiness to the best of your capacity, doesn't matter, to the best of your capacity, will transform a simple act of giving bread to an ultimate act of getting you out of suffering, according to this. And the same with any of the other perfections which we covered. And the thing that I was trying to figure out how to tell you is, I'll probably screw it up, okay? But I'm trying to figure out a different way to explain it. Why the hell would that make such a big difference? If ultimate reality, if the way reality actually exists, meaning things don't have a nature, they are empty, if that's how things really exist, then giving with that understanding makes that act different. How? And the idea that I came up with is like being a cave person or a person in the Middle Ages or something and seeing birds fly and saying, I would like to fly. Yeah, and so I gather all their feathers and I stick it on me, and if I don't understand what makes fly, if I don't understand gravity and that the resistance against gravity is what lets a plane go up, if I don't have that understanding of what makes that function, I might fluke it. Is that a New American word? Yeah, I might fluke it. I might make the mistake of creating a paper airplane that flies for a little bit and I think I've figured it out. But if I don't know what it is that keeps it going, then I die and I'm going to give it to you. Use this plane. And then you're going to copy the only plane you've got, but you won't know what makes it fly. You won't be able to improve or fix or make that fly. And only after the understanding that if the wings are a certain angle, and this is the part I'm going to screw up, and that the speed has to be a certain thing, only then is there lift. Then you can do as many bloody planes as you want and stay up in the air for as long as you want, because you understand the real world that flying occurs in. Yeah. So in that case, understanding how things actually work, taking the red pill and seeing what's there, gives you the capacity that when you give, you're not just giving bread that has power by itself and then you're upset when she got sick or you're happy when she didn't get sick. There's an emptiness of the bread. There's an emptiness of the person receiving the bread, and there's an emptiness of me. And they're called the three spheres, and we'll get to them at some point. And when your mind abides in that, the mind should not abide anywhere. Right? When your mind abides in that, you can still do all the stuff you're doing, but all of a sudden it is an unstoppable undoing of the things that are appearing self-existently. I hope that made some sense to enter into this next part, because what did Subhuti say? It's like, oh wow, that's so cool, dude. You just told me you don't exist the way I think you exist. That's why you exist. Yeah. He's gone, that's so cool. And then motivated by that, he's like, It's beautiful because it's like, shit. Sorry, he didn't say shit. How do I keep these teachings? He's thinking. How do I keep this insight? You just told me something so precious. Oh my God. How do I keep it? He says, what was the thing? What will happen to these teachings in the last 500? He said. Right? Is that right? It's up here. Can someone read it? Because I can't see it without my glasses. No, that's not what he said.
Can I ask a question?
You can.
Is the difference between physics and Buddhism that Buddhism is less predictable because of karma?
No. The difference between physics and Buddhism is that Buddhism includes, like Buddhists believe in physics,
Sure.
but they just include the perceiver, the mind that experiences stuff, not just physical stuff, metaphysical stuff too. It includes the mind that perceives it as causation, as part of causation.
Okay.
At least some of the Buddhist schools do that. Yeah. So this was a question, O Conqueror, what will happen in the future, in the days of the last 500, when Holy Dharma here refers to the Buddhist teaching, not just normal Dharma. Remember the word Dharma means object, thing. Holy Dharma means the Buddhist teaching, your words. As it approaches its final destruction, how could anyone of those times ever see accurately the meaning of that stuff you just did to blow my mind? Right? Will this stuff last? He asks the Buddha. And what do you think the Buddha is going to say?
Yes,
What do you think?
no.
Who said that? Huh? That's very good. Yeah. He actually says, don't be stupid. Don't ask dumb questions, Subhuti. He actually does say that. But then he answers it. Yeah. He's like, don't ever ask that question again. But here's the answer. Yeah. The awesome thing about this question and his answer is that the Buddha, what's one of his main teachings? What's one of Buddhists' main teachings, do you think? What is it? Yeah, impermanence. Everything you're attached to is going to turn to shit. Yeah? Not thinking that's going to happen will cause you a bunch of suffering. So let's begin with reality. Everything you own, everything you work for, everything you are is going to turn to shit. But don't despair. There's a nicer answer coming if you hold on enough to despair. So the Buddha says, yeah, this too is going to go to shit. There will be a last 500, and we'll figure out what that means in a second. There will be a time when nobody will get these teachings. And so there's a whole debate in all the Buddhist schools about what's the last 500, when will it end, how will it end, and that's what we're covering tonight. Yeah? Just so when you hear it over and over and over, in the sutra you'll know what they're talking about. You'll get some insight. So,
Is the last 500 people or years?
No,
or?
a good question. We'll find out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's probably years because it says in the time in the future, so it's time based.
Wouldn't
No, the answer is no. Yeah, no, sorry.
In the case of giving bread,
Yeah.
wouldn't the perception of emptiness devoid the act of generosity?
Good. Why would that?
Because I recognize that there is no inherent meaning in what I'm doing. So to do it would mean that it doesn't have...
Good. You've just fallen off the cliff of self-existence or no existence at all. You need to get into the middle way. Good.
So,
You have to have those questions.
But
Yeah.
then why be generous? Like what?
Great. Because
aside from karma. Putting karma aside.
No aside from karma, because there's no aside from karma.
Yeah, true.
It means that somebody, sorry, you look hungry. Someone's hungry. Your mind projected a reality. It's not a reality. It is a reality because it's your projection that there is hunger there. You must act. Is that hunger out there separate to your perception? Never. This is what this is saying. There is only hunger out there because of your perception. Your perception created an experience that is real for you and probably her of hunger. That appearance occurred to you. Cannot ignore it, because your action, even though it is your projection, your action upon your projection must have consequences in the place where you're projecting from. If you ignore it, you are still planting a mental movement, a karma, which is, I don't give a bread. I don't give a spread. Yeah? And that becomes the beginning of a new sequence for you. It will have consequences in your mind. To look at someone that's hungry, you know you have a piece of bread. It doesn't mean it's out there hungry. The way it really appears is that, for you, is that there is hunger there. That's what it appears. It doesn't mean that there's no someone there with food for you. Yeah? But for them, they might not be hungry. You have to act on your perception. You might check. Yeah.
Gotcha.
That turns it on, not off.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You have to sneak your mind in there. It's not a normal way of thinking. If it were, we'd all be Buddhists.
One question about that. As a Buddhist, do you ask, would you like somebody, just give it?
Force feed.
Okay, I'll answer that in a force feed. As a Buddhist, it doesn't excuse you from your reality. It's just giving you more tools for the reality you're in. Yeah. So a common mistake for I'm super spiritual, I'm a Buddhist, is now I can let my mind be flippy and weird and strange and I don't have to get consequences. It's wrong. Yeah. If you see someone bleeding to death, you're not going to sit there as like, they are bleeding to death because they are not bleeding to death. That's why they're bleeding to death. And then they're dead. You're not going to sit there and do that. And it's a common misconception of Buddhism that you sort of got to chill and not do anything. Wrong. Yeah, wrong. You have a conception, you must act. Your current reality will not magically disappear because you're studying emptiness. It's another tool. So, if you see someone embarrassed to ask you for food because they're hungry, what would a person that would like to give do? You'd sneak some food, you'd place it there, you might not embarrass them by, saying, oh, you look homeless, in the subway. You would do it with some tact because every part of your giving has consequences in your mind. So you would still do what you're doing. You go to work, you kiss your boyfriend, you poop. You don't not do those things because you are, the things are not the thing because they are the thing. That's why, it will slow your thinking down about it. And that just amplifies your intention. You just have another layer to act on. It added complexity for you. It does not remove what you're currently experiencing. You're still you have always been projecting what you are experiencing. This is just letting you recognize that. So you will continue to project this world, your same mental problems, and it'll be extra frustrating now because now that you're focused on it, they will appear like they are more than they were. Sorry to tell you, meditators know that. If you started meditating, you're like, this is worse. In here, it's worse than what I thought. Yeah? And then, but it gives you a different set of tools because the old set of tools got you here. So I hope that was a Buddhist enough answer. Good. So, do you remember we talked about Dharma, meaning the Buddhist ideas, the Buddhist words, like the essence of the Buddha. This stuff is Dharma, books are Dharma, right? The experience you have about this is Dharma. What the Buddha shared is Dharma. It's also meaning existing thing. And so the highest existing thing is the thing that encompasses everything, the ultimate understanding. Dharma, the real Dharma, is the Dharma that holds everything. Yeah, the things that don't have a nature. That understanding is a dharma, a real dharma. So Buddha says, hey, the last 500, when this dharma will die out, what's going to happen? Will people be able to get this wisdom to understand the perfection of giving? If I give with the understanding of emptiness, then the results will be incredible, like beyond limitless. Will people get that at the end, the last 500 years? Yeah. And so to get different perspectives of what that means, we've got a couple of sages and saints and commentaries. Yeah. So there's this book called the Abhidharma Kosha that all schools of Buddhist thought on work from, and this is called the Treasure House of High Knowledge, written by, oh damn it, written by someone, Master Vasavandhu, 350 AD. Okay, here for the smart asses, brother of Master Asanga, mothered by
The nun.
Good. The nun who had them from
The king.
different fathers. Yeah? Problem, but we'll go past that. Okay, so at the end of this book, which talks about cosmology, it talks about karma, it talks about the universe, the mandala, the wheel of life, it talks about it's a collection of all of Buddha's teachings. And it's the main book that all of Southeast Asia uses. Towards the end of it, you come to the end of time. Yeah? And at that end of time, the Buddha predicts the end of his teachings. And so it's like the second to last paragraph or something. And this is the transliteration of the Tibetan at the end of those lines. And basically he says that there are two types of dharma that will die at the end. Yeah, in the last 500. There's two types. Can someone who's not studied this guess what the two types of dharma might be? Someone who has studied it then.
The physical and the realization.
Great. So dharma in the form of the books, the oral transmission, the actual stuff that is visible and relatable in the world. So this dharma, the physical dharma, it's been for a while. The physical dharma and these words that I'm trying to share with you. These words sound like this in the recording. Yeah? Those things and these things is known as the physical dharma, stuff we can engage with. So that's a type of dharma that might end in the last 500. And then what else would there be? If this is one division, what would the other part of that division be?
The realization.
Yeah, the stuff embodied, the stuff in your mind right now, to whatever degree you understand emptiness, that dharma. If you were able to catch for a millisecond that the only way I'm ever going to get bread is because I understand the emptiness of giving bread. If you get that, whatever we've been talking so far for a millisecond, that expansion of your bubble, that dharma, the mental realizations, the holding the concepts in your mind stream. Yeah, so that's the physical dharma, the realizations, your understanding. And you can group that in the Tripitaka or the 5 paths, which we covered, or the cessation, right? The truth of cessation. We don't need to get into those, but I'll get into the Tripitaka if I can. Yeah.
With the Dharma realizations, is that the same as when the Buddha reached enlightenment? As I understand it, he didn't create the Dharma.
He just, exactly.
It came to him, and these are just the laws of nature in a different...
Yeah, so who discovered gravity?
Right? Like karma isn't something that he created.
No, it's like, I realized this.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so you can come to realize that. You can come to realize gravity. You can come to realize that things don't have a nature. But you don't do it just from nothing. You've got to create that experience. You have to do the things that will change your mind enough to see that, expand that bubble of knowledge. Yeah. And then you'll have those realizations. But there is a ton of realizations along the path. So in the 5 paths, what are some of the realizations that you would call dharma? We covered it second class, I think. Second class. some of the realizations you will get in the 5 paths. How do you enter the first path? You get renunciation. What does that really mean?
Correct view. In a way.
How do you get renunciation?
You realize that the things you thought made you happy don't actually give you sustained happiness.
Yeah, exactly. So you hit a wall with all the things that you've been trying to get in the job, in the boyfriend, all the other stuff, and your mind makes real the actual reality that there was never happiness in that boyfriend, and or in that job or in that thing. It's not out there, and I'm done with looking for it out there. I have renounced the idea that I'm ever going to reach this ultimate state of happiness by collecting more shit out there. That kind of realization is the dharma of this stuff. And then you start looking elsewhere. You would take the red pill in that metaphor. You're like, okay, I'm done. I'm sick of it. Let's go. Oh, it doesn't mean it disappears magically because you took the red pill. You see it more because you see what it is. Yeah, and I'd rather that than this forever. Yeah, like that's the implication here. I'd rather deal with reality than be lost in an illusion and go for the steak. Is that other metaphor? The guy that gives it up for the steak. Okay, so anyway, I quickly want to go through the dharma, physical dharma, and the realizations. So you're good, right? So dharma, you can read this book, but then this book makes you experience something in your mind. And we're digging in there. Those 2 dharmas are the things we're talking about ending. That Subhuti is like, hey, when it's all done, when in the last 500, will people be able to get this thing and this thing? Yeah. So that's what we're going to dig into. For those I just love the word Tripitaka because I used to watch an old Hong Kong show called Monkey Magic. Has anyone seen that? I'm the oldest person in here. This is terrible. It was a really, really bad, maybe, was it Japanese or Hong Kong? Anyway, it was a really terrible dubbed Chinese series on the Monkey King, Journey to the West.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Do you remember that?
Yeah, in fact, somebody's trying to remake it.
Monkey Magic?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that whole thing, yeah.
Okay, so this is
It had,
this
like these fantastic things that happen.
Yeah.
Really bad special effects.
really terrible special effect, and so much
It is
so.
a famous Chinese story from like hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, the story is been redone over and over, but that particular instance on TV was really bad color. Like the cloud was a bunch of cotton balls that they'd put together, and Monkey, who had a monk that followed him around, who was always a lady, and it weirded me out, right? Because it was like, that's obviously a girl, but they would call the monk Tripitaka, right? Because they embodied these 3 baskets, tree from 3 taka baskets, the 3 baskets or 3 collections, yeah? So anyway, Monkey Magic, you should really look at it. I will tell you a little bit about the cloud because it's just funny. And it was a bunch of cotton balls. And so he would be in a fight and he'd go, power of wind, come. Really badly. And then this cotton ball in animation style, you'd see the string and it'd go, and then he'd jump on and you'd see him jumping on and there'd be a little figurine on the string. It was really bad. Yeah. Highly recommend. Monkey Magic. Okay, Tripitaka is the name of the monk. Now the monk was Master Xuanzang from China, who, just a sideline, who was a historical figure who went down from China to India to Nalanda, where Master Shantideva was studying around the year 700, I want to say, and he brought back all the Mahayana teachings to China, to Xi'an, yeah, in Goose Pagoda, I want to say. So he brought a collection. He had this really cool backpack, and you'll see this. And so that story called Journey to the West took 12 years for him to go down and come back. It was a stunning, real account, and so this became a classic Chinese story. Okay, here we go. 3 baskets. And this is just so you know how people divided the Buddha's teachings. There's the Vinaya Pitaka, which is all about taming your mind. It's all the texts, all the sutras related to morality, to the discipline of taming your bizarre, crazy mind. Yeah, if things don't have a nature, if things are empty, then everything you do, say, or think plants a cause in your mind, plants a karma that must ripen like a seed into your projection of your next reality. 3 months later, 6 years later, 12 lives later. That's the only way you project reality, because of the stuff inside of you. How did that stuff inside of you get there? All the shit you did, said, and thought. They all create, your mind is recording it all the time. So it's, yeah? So you could be sitting there going, oh, nice, Hector, but if you're making fun of me, you get to eat that stuff later. And if you get to enjoy it, you get to eat that stuff later. It'll appear as an echo back at you, but amplified, because tiny seeds give big results, and internally too. So based on that, there's a whole series of texts around Dua in Tibetan, Vinaya in Sanskrit, of disciplining our untamed monkey behavior. Yeah? You have one piece of bread. My bread. Hungry person, bleeding. I'm going to add the bleeding. Yeah? Bleeding, hungry person. Just to accelerate the experience. Ultimately, it was projected there as your reality. Yeah? So is the one piece of bread. So in that instance, you have your mind goes, what do I do? I'm really hungry. She's in need of bread. What's the wisest thing you would do if you want to have more bread, if bread comes from your projections? What should you do? What do you want to do? Want to do, should do.
What if you give it resentfully?
Yeah, you will get it back with resentment. Yeah, and the same with that's a great question. Yeah, it doesn't stop the airplane from flying. Yeah, like it's still the laws of cause and effect are true. Every detail of your act of giving is coming back. So people ask me that question in terms of, I want to have the best relationship. I want to have a relationship like you and Stephen. And I'm like, you don't really. And then, but you perceive it to be like that. So yes, you should want that kind of relationship. Yeah. So what should someone do to plant an experience of meeting someone that is like that to them? What should a person that wants to experience a relationship, whatever relationship means to them, what should they be doing? Give away relationships. What the hell does that mean? Yeah. Well, let's look at all the things that relationship means for you. Don't want to be lonely. So go and help people not be lonely. That's it. Things don't have a nature. Go help grandma not be lonely. Yeah. What else is good sex? Yeah. Go help people have good sex.
Let's talk about that one.
It's better than having bad sex.
Thank you very much. Yeah. No, but there are people in your world who are like, my sex life, and they're close enough, and you can talk, and you can imagine helping them. Yeah, you don't have to show them. You can just tell them. Yeah. But all those moments, your mind is creating imprints, tiny seeds in the fabric of your consciousness that must, in 3 weeks, 3 months' time, plant an experience of, I'm no longer lonely because this person has just appeared in my world and has just made me feel not lonely and sexy or whatever. Yeah, hopefully they come together. Yeah. And then the question is always, but if I know I'm doing it, aren't I being selfish? Yeah. And if everything is recorded and cause and effect are true, if you were selfish, as you're sitting there using the old lady in the nursing home, going, great, I only got 15 minutes. I'm like, oh yeah, tell me all your stuff, boring. Yeah, tell me all your stuff. I'm watching myself being selfish. You will definitely stop having the experience of being alone, but you must meet someone that will make you feel exactly that way. And it's not that, oh, this is the magic thing. This is exactly how it's always been. You just didn't know the mechanism. That's all. You just didn't know gravity. You didn't know how it worked. But that's the only way you meet selfish people. That's the only way you meet loving people. It's because of how you were to others. This is a shortcut to this whole sutra, okay? Anyway, so good question, and you have to play with that. And I encourage you, and I have done it, where I'll be honest with myself. Yes, I wasn't very present when I helped you figure out your life problem. I'm sitting there going, oh, boring, I heard that 16 times. You know? I get that back, and I'll experiment. I'm like, don't lie to yourself. Be aware that that's what you're doing. Try and amp up the motivation, and then be very cognizant of where that shows up for you later. And you will see it if you do this long enough. Yeah? If you grow a beard. Cool. So this AE is?
This feels a little bit like blind faith in a way. I'm just wondering what gives you confidence, or what would give us confidence
Yeah.
this is the reality of how things work.
Yeah, for me, it's the opposite of blind faith. Yeah, because I'm giving you all these techniques, but they're all predicated on your understanding that things don't have a nature. If you've seen the pen example, that's proof that pen is not pen. That's why it's pen for you. Yeah, like the sutra says. There is no penness in that object. Impossible. Once you get that, everything else without exception is exactly the same way. It is empty of being what you think it is. It doesn't mean it's not what it is for you. It is a chew toy for a dog. It is a pen for a human that sees it as pen. That's what makes it a pen. There's no other pen like that than that. When you understand that, that's the foundation that your mental imprints are forcing your reality. Not by choice, forcing it. If loneliness stopped when you were next to someone, we shouldn't be feeling lonely. Yeah? So the way it appears isn't the real cause. So getting that understanding through understanding karma and emptiness over and over and over removes faith. Don't need faith. Yeah? But you do need to then do the analytical thinking upon how things truly exist, which will get you to emptiness and get you that something in me is producing that, and that's called karma. And then begin to experiment and apply to one thing and test it. And Buddha said, don't believe me. You have to chew it and play with it. If you believed me because I said so, you'd have to believe the next bastard that you walked out of and they told you some story and you go, oh, my reality is based on what I believe. So then you'd have to go and believe that bastard. And then someone else comes over and you have to believe the next one. So it cannot be based on belief. Now, after you intellectually see it, you then might have some faith that applying it onto other things, it will result in the same. That part, I'll buy that there is, you're doing an experiment and looking for a result. And in that, you might have some faith that you're hoping for a result in that action. That in that respect, maybe. Is that okay?
Yeah, I guess maybe this would be a long conversation, but what are those experiments then?
Plug TED Talk. Go to the TEDx that I did on getting rid of the angry boss. Hector Marcel, getting rid of an angry boss or something like that. Yeah. And that to me was to answer your question. When I met this stuff, I'm like, I found a problem in my life that I couldn't fix anymore doing all the nominal things. And that's at the same time I bumped into these ideas. And the teacher that was teaching me said, I don't care if you believe me or not. You can live your whole life. I don't care. But if you want to try this, then you've got to do it wholeheartedly and really try and really apply this as if this was the answer. 3 months, my reality flipped in a way that was predicted but not expected. Bigger than I realized. And if you get a chance to see that TED Talk, you'll get the heart of my first experiment. And then if you do succeed in your first experiment, so I was a little bit of an ass. I wanted to test it on the hardest thing that I had at the time. Yeah, I have a real problem that is really destroying my life. If this works, it's got to work on that most terrible thing. And I thought, part of me thought, F you, Buddhist monk, I'll prove you wrong. Part of me was hoping that. But then the part of me that was really honest, I couldn't ever go back to him and say it didn't work if I didn't really try it. So I think that was a virtue in me, a kind of do or die about trying it. I really worked hard against my mind. And the results, I wish everybody got what I got to see. Because it gave me inertia for the times where I couldn't apply the experiment so easily the second time, the third time, the fourth time, because our minds are not used to looking at the world this way. That's why this is hard. That's why your mind is like questioning and pushing, because we think living this life the way we've always lived is just fine. And you'll think that until you get cancer. You'll think that until your mum dies. You'll think that until the impossible unfairness. I don't deserve this until that moment. But I didn't do anything to deserve this. But I've been kind. And when you come to that wall, you get a kind of renunciation. When you smash. And I hope that you get that, sorry to say it like that, but I hope that you get that wish to figure it out early enough in life so you can have years to apply it. Because it sort of doesn't work so much if you are so habituated in the old way of doing things, of looking at the world. That's the best I can tell you about that. Taming your mind, one set of takas. Or pitakas. Then the Sutra Pitaka, which is it's a problem because Sutra Pitaka tells you that that's all the sutras, right? But no, they're all sutras. These are all mostly related to all the teachings, all the education around taming your mind, not in terms of ethics, but in terms of concentration, meditation. So the first one is the training of ethics. It's 8 sets of vows, 3 for lay people, 5 for monastics. The next basket, it's because at the time of the Buddha and thereafter, they kept all these writings in baskets. Like, put all those over in this basket, put those in this basket. And the last one is the Abhidharma Pitaka, which is, it's everything related to wisdom. Everything that related to emptiness, to the way things ultimately are. Right? So those 3 baskets also create the 3 extraordinary trainings in ethics, concentration, and wisdom. And don't forget, the reason we're talking about all this weird stuff is because I want to go back to the beginning of the sutra where Subhuti is like, dude, you're a Buddha, you're free from suffering, there's some bliss that you're experiencing. How do bastards like us get there? And he didn't say it like that, but that's really what he meant. And then Buddha's like, oh, sure, what you need to do, in the last slide I showed you, he said, you got to do everything with the understanding of wisdom, of emptiness. That's what's going to cut the diamond, cut the most ultimate thing in this planet. That's what's going to smash it. Is your internalization, your experience of the ultimate. Because when you do, then you're free. Yeah, when you have that understanding, you're free to unravel the thing that caused this experience for you. And so, without ethics, you can't have concentration. Your mind cannot stabilize if you've got shit on your mind. If you've got something on your mind, some yucky, I really hate my neighbor, or like, yeah, I'm a terrible person, I'm always failing. If you've got some shit going on in your mind, that's, according to this, is produced by the way you say, think, and do things. Those imprints are in you. Then you can't concentrate. You can't focus. And for those of us doing meditation teacher training, we'll get to that problem where You try to meditate and you've got all the right conditions, but your mind starts bothering you. Some people that are training their minds to meditate, just continue an old habit of self-hate. Yeah, and that's a huge problem. You're trying to train your mind to focus, and whilst you're trying to focus on something virtuous, there's a little chatter in your mind going, you're not meditating. Look at your posture. You're stupid. What do you think? And this is undercurrent that's grabbing itself to your meditation. And if cause and effect are true, those imprints are what you're creating in your future awareness. And next time you meditate, what's going to begin to bubble up? So if you want to get to wisdom, which is the ticket to enlightenment, which is answered to the question Subhuti asked, you need to get wisdom. You need to get an experience of emptiness. You need to have a realization of the third of the Tripitakas. You need to see emptiness directly. The nature of the universe, you need to experience it. You can't do it chopping wood. You need to do it in meditation. You need to slow down reality enough in meditation and maintain a constant state of concentration enough to investigate how things actually occur. Is hunger coming this way or that way? Yeah, and when you get there, there is no Buddha. That's why you perceive a Buddha. The only way you can is by seeing that I'm not real. Yeah, when you realize that, inside of you, that's the ticket out, because then you know causation. This is saying you can't get there if you're not meditating, if you haven't settled your mind. You can't get that insight if your mind isn't so still that you see how mind works. And you can't still your mind if you're not practicing ethics, being in the world the way you would like to be in the world. So that's important here. So then, remain in the world. How long will this remain in the world? What does that mean? And Master Vasubandhu also in the Abhidhammakosha, or a commentary to his own Abhidhammakosha, actually, he says to the physical stuff to remain in the world means someone is teaching it correctly to others with a good motivation. And correctly meaning the ultimate meaning, the way that you can actually use. Yeah, because I could read you this in Tibetan. If I know that your mind isn't getting it, I'm not teaching it correctly. Because it's like seeing the person with the bread wound. No, with the wound that needs bread. And then putting the bread in the wound. It's hungry. It's misunderstanding. So a correct explanation that lands to the appropriate appearance is teaching it correctly with a good intention, right? Not to hurt. And then he says the understandings or the realizations remain. What does that mean for them to remain in the world? If they were to stay until the last 500, how? There's someone following the Tripitaka, the three extraordinary trainings, practicing them and practicing them in a way that they can get people to enlightenment, get people to reach enlightenment. So the understanding that ethics leads to concentration and concentration leads to wisdom, understanding those relationships is what keeps those realizations in the world. Is that cool? Okay, let's go to your question. What the hell is 500? Okay, how long is 500? And welcome to Tibetan Buddhism. I will give you 3 lists, okay? And the first list will be from Buddha Shakyamuni. The next list will be from a bunch of Indian and Tibetan commentators.
Can you go back to the last one? 1 second, I'll take a photo instead of writing it all down. Sorry.
Everybody can argue with. And so obviously this is answer 2 in your homeworks. Yeah. And you can tell that from the number 2 on the diamond. Okay. So I'll go quickly through this. It just means if you want to go and find out what the last 500 means, how long will Buddha's teachings stay in a world for us to have access to them? Buddha said in many, many of his sutras, how long? Then a bunch of Indian commentaries looking at those sutras and others said this long. And then we're studying a commentary from a book that was found in the 90s that was burnt in China. Do you remember who the author was?
Chone Lama Drakpa
Shedrup. Yeah, fantastic. And then we're going to find out what he says in his commentary, because he lived around 1700s, 1750. So he's going to have a more current perspective of what this might mean based on all the commentaries and all the Buddhist teachings. So we'll go through those three. Yeah? Chone Lama Drakpa Shedrup. It's our commentary. Cool? Here we go. You might need some of these for your next homework, but not all of them. Okay? I'll go through it quickly. The Sutra of the Golden Age says that the Dharma Buddhist teachings will last for 2,000 years after the Buddha's passing. So he lived around 500 BC. So it'd be the year 1500, around about when Tsongkhapa lived. Yeah, that Buddha's teachings will remain alive until the time of Tsongkhapa in Tibet, who was like this greatest, most incredible teacher of the first Dalai Lama, etc. He says, in the purest form, it'll stay for 500 years until Jesus came, and then for 1500 years thereafter, it'll be a sort of a shadow of its former self. Is that what it says? Yes. So that's the Buddha saying how long, what I say will remain here. And then, does anybody remember Ungali Mala? Yeah? What does Mala mean? Oops. Shut up. What does Mala mean in Spanish? Bad. Okay, good. What's it mean, just to change the subject? Mala, this is a mala, right? A string of beads. And I think this is interesting that it's in this course. There's a sutra of the life of Ungali Mala, right? Which means string of fingers. Yeah, so mala of fingers. And so there's this Indian student at the time of the Buddha who had a wacky teacher, and the teacher said, you want to reach nirvana, you have to chop off the finger of 1,000 different people and wear it like a mala. Yeah? And so he became this crazed person who got some weird teaching and thought that he was going to get free from suffering by causing 1,000 sufferings. Yeah? Already it's weird. So he's up to 999 fingers on his, this is what it looks like in an Indian movie. Yeah. So, and if you can look at some vintage Indian movies, you will really enjoy. Yeah. So it's him and his gang of bad dudes, right? And they're up to 999. And so he's got one more before he reaches nirvana. Yeah. Before he gets free. And everyone's frightened of him in the local villages. They're all scared of him. And anyway, the Buddha talks this in his sutra. And so he's walking in the forest looking for his next victim. And who should walk in the forest but the Buddha, right? And so there's this really good, cool scene in some vintage Indian movies. One of the problems with Ungali Mala is that he can't reach the Buddha. So he sees him over there and is like, my next victim, I will take his fingers. And so he's running. And the more he runs, the same distance that the Buddha remains, doesn't matter how fast. And he tries to kill him and his arm doesn't do anything. And he's like, what's going on? And he has these kind of appearances. And the Buddha says some words to him like, causing harm will produce bliss for you. Is that really how things work? And then he's like, why is this guy not scared of me? But anyway, he has a realization. And of course, what do you think happens? He doesn't cut the finger, but he becomes a follower of the Buddha. He doesn't reach nirvana immediately. Anyway, in that sutra, which is the Buddha drops in there, my Dharma will stay in the world for 1,000 years from the time of my passing. Anguli Lama, I said it wrong. Anguli Mala. So 1,000 years. Then there's another sutra requested by the essence of moon. It says 2,000 years. All these are spoken by the Buddha, right? What the hell? And the sutra of the white lotus, of compassion, 1,500 years. And then there's this really cool Goddess of Flawless Light sutra requested by Goddess of Flawless Light. And in that sutra, Lord Buddha says it'll be 2,500 years, and it will spread to the land of those beings with reddish faces. And they say it's us, okay? It's like us with pink babies, okay? Beings with reddish faces. So that's interesting. These are all what the Buddha says. Then let's go to the commentaries. Zoe, did you get a picture of that?
The same Buddha said all those different things?
Yep.
Okay.
But don't worry, Buddha's trippy. Yeah,
It's just clarifying.
Yeah. And we'll get a little explanation from Chone Lama, of what that means. Here's a couple. Master Vasubandhu in his commentary to the Abhidhamma Kosha says 1,000 years, and he's investigated other sutras. Master Kamalashila, who does a commentary on this. Remember what was special about Master Kamalashila? Meditation what?
9 stages.
Debate?
Oh.
Yeah, cool. Master Kamalashila says 2,500. And then there is a commentary on the perfection of wisdom in 100,000 verses. And I don't know who did that commentary, but it's referred to by Chone Lama. So I'm guessing it's on cover, but I'm not 100% sure. And that says 5,000 years, okay? Based on all the commentaries and all the times the Buddha gave approximations, yeah? There's a problem in calculating Indian history in terms of they didn't count time like we count time, and then the Tibetans added to it because they have a lunar calendar and blah, blah, blah. And then Chone Lama says, I agree with the 5,000, and he says why. Yeah? So out of everything, the commentary we're reading says settle on the 5,000. And he says it's 5,000 because it's 10 periods of 500 years. 10 periods, the last 500. First 500, second 500, yeah? And then just quickly, he divides them into the first 3 500s where people are just getting enlightened, they're reaching nirvana, they're listening to this Dharma, and the Dharma is very strong, very alive, close to the time of the Buddha. Yeah, and they call it the era of results. Don't worry about the details, we won't have time to go through them. And then it fades a little bit. And it's the era of practice where people are actually trying to get enlightened. It's hard, but they can, right? It's hard. And so people are having the experience, the realizations that come from the Tripitaka, basically. Is that right? Yeah. The 3 extraordinary trainings. And then guess what comes? Guess what comes after the era of practice? The era of physical Dharma, the Lung, the transmission, oral transmission, and the physical books. Because of course, first the realizations disappear. And then you only got the physical stuff, yeah? Broadly speaking, Chone Lama says. Mostly people won't know what the experience, what the realizations, how to get them. Those die off first. Then what dies off is this era of the actual material being around and the commentaries and the explanations being around enough for people to have realizations. Yeah, and we're in that era, the era of Lung, according to this. Well, sorry, in the practice. Yeah, sorry, my fault. Thank you. She's like, damn, I'm in the wrong era. Yeah. So we're somewhere, depending on what you gauge the Buddha, we're somewhere around the extraordinary change, practice of morality, right? Roughly speaking. Internalizing ethics. Understanding the connection between ethics, according to Chone Lama. Yeah? And then the last is just the trace of everything. There's very few books, and if there are, they'll use them as doorposts or something. Yeah, they're like, oh, look at that old book. Or something.
Basically saying that it's getting
less and less and less. Yeah, and then at that time, it's end. There'll be 0 of my teachings in the world. First era, everyone's getting to enlightenment quickly, popping like popcorns. Then next era is like popcorn, but most people are having internal experiences of the 3 trainings. Yeah, the concentration, wisdom and ethics. They're really understanding it. They communicate it easily. And that's the era we're finishing, right? Remember that sutra that said around 2,500 years from the time of the Buddha, which is around now, it'll go to the land of the reddish faces, us. Yeah? And then it's trickling down. The idea here is quite depressing. The idea that you could get out of a realm of suffering and understand how to get out of there, how to fly an airplane with an understanding of gravity. That knowledge is disappearing. And it disappears in this way. First, everyone's doing it. Then people are having these awesome inner realizations, but it's less than people releasing themselves from suffering. And then even less, but they're understanding what to do until there's not even a trace of what would direct them to do it. Yeah. But remember what the Buddha said to Subhuti? Oh, you don't know what the Buddha said to Subhuti. You just know what Subhuti asked. Oh, he said, don't ask stupid questions, right? So here it is. Yeah. He's like, can someone read it? Stephen?
And the conqueror replied, Subhuti, you should never ask the question you have just asked. I say to you, O Subhuti, that in the future, in the days of the last 500, when the holy Dharma is approaching its final destruction, there will come bodhisattvas who are great beings, who possess morality, and who possess the fine quality, and who possess wisdom.
Why would he say, don't ask stupid questions?
Because he asked a stupid question.
He did ask a stupid question. But what was in the question that made it stupid?
It's worrying about the future instead of being in the present moment.
No.
It's planting the seed for it to end. Planting the seed for it to end.
Well, it's assuming that there is a self-existent last 500, right? And it doesn't need to end for someone who understands, because he just also said you can have infinite virtue. You can become enlightened so long as you hold these ideas. To think that there is a set time separate from your projection from all these things ending is stupid. Don't ask such a stupid question. I just told you you're projecting your reality because you understand emptiness. You're saying to me, okay, there's a reality of time now that you're screwed at. Right? That all these beings are all slowly turning to no understanding. Yes, nominally, everything that grows must come down for those that don't understand where things come from. But he said there will be bodhisattvas, there will be great beings who, if they understand, right, what did it say? Again, I say to you as a Buddha.
In the future, in the days of the last 500, when the holy Dharma is approaching its final destruction, there will come bodhisattvas who are great beings, who possess morality, who possess the fine quality, and possess wisdom.
In realizations. And then he says a whole bunch of other things, and then he says this.
Me?
Yeah.
The one thus gone, Subhuti, sees any such person. Such a person, O Subhuti, has produced and gathered safely into themselves a mountain of merit beyond any calculation. Why is it so? Because, Subhuti, these bodhisattvas who are great beings never slip into any conception of something as a self, nor do they slip into any conception of something as a living being, nor any conception of something as being alive, nor any conception of something as a person.
So he says self, living being, life, and person. Yeah? He says great bodhisattvas that will forget about the last 500. Of course there will be beings that if they hold Dharma, if they dare to hold up, if they hold up this wisdom from the things that are falling apart, if they hold it up, doesn't matter if it's now 500 years, it's coming from the beings. Now, it's only those beings that don't see themselves as a self, a living being, a life, or a person. Right? So he's like, there will be people that understand how to apply this Dharma. Of course, there will always be people. But there got to be people that don't see themselves as I am a solid person out there separate from my perception forcing me to experience myself in my realm.
I find it interesting, is it saying That like you have to be reading this book or following this tradition or this thing. It's just that you have these beliefs for the concepts.
If you could remove the word Buddhism from these ideas, this works for you. Yeah? And in fact, there's enough commentary to say there are Buddhists who dress like Buddhists who are not Buddhists, because their mind is not holding Dharma. It's not holding the understanding that my world is being projected from something inside of me. We call it karma. You can call it doodly-doo. But if you have the wisdom, the understanding that, oh my God, things are forced by my projections, then you're a Buddhist in the sense of wake-upist. Mm-hmm. And nobody needs you to bow to Buddha. A being that is that will see each of you as Buddhas. A being that is forced to teach the unsurpassed understanding to a bunch of beings who are pretending to need to learn the unsurpassed understanding. If I know what nature you hold for me and what nature I hold for me and what nature these words have, if I hold that, the virtue is unsurpassable. It's beyond. So who would force me to rethink the ultimate other than a creature that could be an enlightened being themselves? And do I need to be a Buddhist? Yes, in the sense of wake-uppers. But in the next class, I think it's in the next class, or it might be skipped, it might be in the paragraphs between this and next class. Buddha says to Subhuti, bodhisattvas will reach enlightenment beyond the last 500. But a good bodhisattva knows to burn the boat of Dharma, whatever conception you had about what this is that got you there, you better burn that stuff before you get to the other shore. Otherwise, you'll always be on this self-existent boat that calls itself Buddhism. At some point, you're going to have to burn it. Meaning, realize Dharma is also empty of being a thing. Until then, use it to get close to the shore of freedom. But once you get close, you've got to realize even this boat that got me here is also a projection forced upon me by my kindness to help other people get free. There ain't no Buddha in Buddha. There ain't no enlightenment in Dharma. Not like we think. But you should use it that way until the boat gets you close enough. In the next few lines, he'll say that. So just before we move on, I want to give you what Buddha meant by self, living being, etc. Yeah, because this is going to be vital, and he'll repeat it 1,000 times in the sutra. Yeah, in the 192 exchanges between Subhuti and Buddha, he'll say this over and over. And this we get from Kamalashila, who practices and where to apply this understanding of emptiness. And so when he says there is no self, what do you think he means? No self. No me, Hector, as a self-existent self. Is there a Hector? Yeah, someone's talking, right? It's not like I am not here. I am here, but how am I here? Yeah, I am also a projection. The sense of me is also my mind experiencing this collection of words and sounds and minds and thoughts and bodies and fingers, angulis.
She doesn't perceive Hector.
Huh?
She doesn't perceive Hector.
She doesn't perceive Hector. Yeah, exactly. She perceives scary monster with beard. Right? So, is there a self? Yes, there is. Is there a hungry person? Yes, there is. Is there a pen? Yes, there is. Is there a Buddha that's got the signs of looking like a Buddha? Yes, deceptively there is. But ultimately, there is no self that would be that way. If someone walked in and looked at this, they would not say this is Hector. In that sense, there's no Hector-ness vomiting out from all these parts. So when Buddha says no self, he means no me. When he says no living being, he says no mine. No mine as in my legs, my arms, my mind, my world. The sense of Me, I own it. We say it, right? It's my mind. Ooh, are you your mind or your body? Yes. Oh, so you're your body and you're your mind. Who is the owner of both those things? Who's the me that owns both those things? Where is that one? And that's the meditation we did the 2 classes ago. Go find that one. Not in the body and not in the mind. The one that owns your mind. My mind. Go find them. Go find the one that owns your finger. Yeah, there is no such thing without your mind forcing that conception. So no me, no mine. And when they say life, they mean the sense of me over a lifetime. Is that up there? Not yet. No self, no living being, no life or alive. Meaning we have a sense of me over a lifetime. How tall were you when you were 5?
Never foot tall.
Like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. How tall are you now?
6 feet.
Is that the same person? That one you have to apply emptiness to. You're going to say yes. I'm going to say yes. Like if you ask me uninvestigatingly, of course you're the 5-year-old you. Shit. What's the emptiness of that? How come that creature which has all your cells are gone? They're not the same cells. Oh, my hair is gone. If I was the same person, my hair would be here. Okay. And then what do you think the person, the last one, no self, no living being, no life, no person. What do you think the person would refer to? If me, mine, me over a life, what would be the next Buddhist thing to say?
Lifetimes.
Yeah, me over multiple lifetimes. Birth, rebirth, the idea that I'm going to reincarnate as a Hector. Who was I before Hector? Yeah, I was probably I don't know what I was. Anyway, well, the idea that some me-ness continues from life to life to life. Now, let's go to the cells of your body at 5 years old. Where are they now?
Non-existent.
They are existing. Like matter can be destroyed? No.
Yeah.
There's atoms somewhere. Like we're you know that thing we're breathing Jesus's atoms. Someone said like the body does that. It'll turn into manure. It'll turn into worm food. Worms will be bird food. Birds would be other food. There's water particles. There's all this stuff that this physical form will become. And equally, there's all these mental imprints, the continuum of what a mind is, a consciousness is. It's fluctuated. You're not the same kid that you were at 5. You have very different conceptions. Maybe if I rewind it to 1, you didn't read, you didn't write. You have all these new weird ideas. They weren't there then. Those states of mind and those habits, you are so solid and so sure is you. It's nothing like it. The only thing that remained is this sense of I. Yeah? Buddha here is saying, those great bodhisattvas who will reach that place are the ones who do not abide in a self, a living being, a life, or a person. There's no sense of me that continues in the way you think it continues other than your perception. And that's the end of your weirdness today. So for those of you who are doing the homeworks and you have the homeworks, this is slightly different from your homework. So make a little note. If you are doing the meditations, and I encourage you to do them as a meditation or as a contemplation, if you know what the preliminaries are, Diego, can you remember them or am I going to embarrass you? Anyone want to help Diego? Zoe? Huh?
Set the space.
Create a space, 6 preliminaries. Do the space. So create a good space to meditate. Make offerings, like put out stuff to make it like, oh, you're inviting enlightened beings to come and visit in your meditation space. Call the teacher. Come over. Huh? Take refuge in your motivation. Thank you. Then 3. Then gather goodness, which has 7 steps. Then pure. Yeah. That's all the 7. Don't do the 7.
Oh, and then request
And
blessing.
request blessing. Okay. So if you know how to do them, do the preliminaries, and then your meditation should be an analytical meditation on how Dharma, as in the knowledge and wisdom that gets you free. Okay, if you can do it to the Diamond Cutter Sutra, great. If you've been studying Buddhist Dharma, great. Yeah, these books, the insights. If not, if you're studying quantum physics, great. If you're studying psychology, great. Whatever you're grabbing onto as the saving of your insight, like it's going to get me ultimately happy. I want you to meditate on how long that's going to stay on this planet before it, and how will it disappear? And then what's the difference between that and the realizations about that you have? How do they change? Yeah, how do they exist? How will they survive? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really grateful. Here is the barcode for those of you who want to do the Quizlet. The password is 3J. Those that want to go to the portal and get the readings, quizzes, homeworks, please take a scan of that with your iPhone camera that automatically scans it. And when you're ready, we'll do a dedication of any moment of, oh, I think I got something, or shit, my world is falling apart. Dedicate this for the sake of anyone else that would like some insight, some wisdom, and that's how you plant seeds for you to get more wisdom next class and not too weird. Jushin metotram Riraling Shia Yinded Impadi Sangha Shindu Amited Vargi Raku Namda Shinla Tripasho Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami Dihi Agawokun Sunam Yeshe Sok Sok Shin Sunam Yeshe Legend Way Dampa Kuni Tobasho. Thank you so much.